Friends too.
So James and I were having a conversation last week, and this whole thing stemmed is basically what tonight's episode is going to be about is when bands should hang it up. You know, when bands should hang it up, walk away gracefully. You know, so that's good. It kind of stemmed off of, we were talking about Van Halen, the whole Van Halen thing that's going on with, you know, this whole thing stemmed from people just bagging David Lee Roth and all that stuff. And that prompted a conversation between me and James about, you know, hey, man, the dude's, like, burned it up for 40 years. You know, he's annihilated the entire world, you know. I mean, Van Halen is an international band. And they've kicked ass for 40 years. And guess what happens when we all get older? We all lose a step. And it's easier for guitar players to, you know, keep going on into their 60s, 70s, 80s, you know, as long as their fingers are still working, that arthritis ain't kicked in. Vocally, that's a muscle. That's a hard thing to keep up all those years. And on top of that, David Lee Roth was never an exceptional vocalist. So, you know, and everybody knows that. He's a great entertainer, and no one has ever in the history of the world ever said, hey, man, David Lee Roth, that dude's got pipes, you know? that dude's like legendary fucking vocal range. Nobody's ever said that, but the dude, I mean, he's a good singer. He's better than me. I mean, better than most people in the world, but... You know, so that whole thing, I got mad, you know, I was like, hey, man, fucking dude, like, it's David Lee Roth, Van Halen. I mean, they kind of started a revolution, if you will. So, and then that kind of got into, well, maybe they should, you know, should they hang it up? And then we got to talking about that. So it's kind of where we're at right now. James, go ahead and jump in, man.
Well, you know, from my standpoint, my point of view, like we were talking, was, you know, I've seen Van Halen more times than any other band. I don't even have enough appendages to count how many times I've seen Van Halen, starting in the 70s. And, you know, I own every bit of record they've ever made, even the new one. But my stance is they're done. They're done. You know, like Charlie was saying, you know, musically, the band is tight. They're still, you know, Eddie Van Halen is Eddie Van Halen. He'll remain that. But, you know, throughout the years, they've lost key players. And in a lot of bands, you take out a key player and it changes the dynamics. And I think that even though they have 3/4 or 3 of the 4 original members back in the band, it's not the same. You know, they've become a parody of themselves almost, you know, and I think it's time that they realize, let's shut it down, let's go out on a high note, which led us to discussing Motley Crue. You know, they're realizing it, and I firmly believe that, you know, they're gonna take themselves out on their own terms.
Oh boy.
It seems to be lagging on and on the final tour for Motley Crue. It may be another, Kiss final tour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
again, that was just the final tour with the original members.
Right. Well, and that we definitely talked about that too. And talking about Motley Crue, I mean, we'll go ahead and just kind of jump off of them, I guess, first and foremost, because they should be the easiest out of the three bands that we really want to focus on, and Motley Crue being the first, Van Halen and AC/DC. We'll get into those guys. We already touched on Van Halen a little bit, but we'll touch on all that a little bit later. But Motley Crue, in theory, they should have made this the easiest. This is the end. By doing the contract signing, saying they will never tour together as Motley Crue. Now, there's like loopholes there because they could literally, the four of them, go back out and not call themselves Motley Crue and still tour. But I've seen all the loopholes pop up. I've seen all the people say, well, they could still do this and they could still do that. My hope, and I'm like the biggest Motley Crue fan on the planet, self-proclaimed obviously, but my hope is that they do. That's it. They're done. Because it's time. In this instance, I think it's time. And I hope they don't pull a Kiss. And like you said, Kiss has had 4 farewell tours. The first with the original, I think, and then they did it again, and then they did another one with the original members. I don't know. I lost track. And that's... So, but here's where I'm kind of the last couple of days I've been thinking about this. Is it right for me to tell them when to fucking hang it up? Here's the thing. If they're still selling and people are still coming to the shows, then should they give it up? I don't know, dude. Foreigner. I've never been a big fan of Foreigner. Foreigner's playing tonight or tomorrow night here in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
Dude,
let me jump on a soapbox real quick. Foreigner's coming and they're playing a commercial. And they're playing songs that Lou Gramm sang, and just was just stated. I don't know who said that. There's only one member of Foreigner still in there. So, what are we getting? A good Foreigner cover band?
They do have. I don't know. I have recently seen Foreigner, and the band that they have together is tight and sounds great. They got Jeff Pilson from Dawkins. They've got Kelly Hansen singing, and Kelly Hansen nails those songs. I don't know what Lou Gramm's doing these days, but Kelly Hansen just nails those songs.
No, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But it's I think I heard James say, well, technically, isn't that a Foreigner cover band now? Because it's not really
true. It is. Right.
And I'm not knocking, the band Foreigner. Because I've heard actually live snippets of what they're doing right now, and it sounds fucking solid. But so that's why I'm torn. There's a lot of bands that I think really should just hang it up and move on, and just finally be part of rock and roll history. But then it's but people are still going to see them, so obviously there's still a poll for them somewhere.
Right?
What? I don't know.
Let's get a little
Motley Crue thing.
Let's I knew this was going to happen when we started talking about this. We'll get back to Motley in a second, but let's. There's a couple of debacles that have happened recently that I think it's a matter of money where they keep the name. And 2 bands I want to throw out there is one of them is Queensryche. So for a time there, we had 2 versions of Queensryche. The band with a new vocalist, and then the vocalist with a new band. Now, when the band version, when they hired Todd LaTorre as their vocalist, they changed the name. They were Red Star Rising or something like that. And that's what they were playing as. Yeah. That's what they went out as. But they quickly found out that they didn't have the draw of the Queensryche name, and they did not have the guarantees that Queensryche was getting. So they went back to ground and decided, hey, we've got to sue for the right to use Queensryche. And that debacle still goes on. The second thing I wanted to discuss was Thin Lizzy, man. Thin Lizzy, everybody really loves that band. Thin Lizzy's got in everybody's hearts. Well, they hired a new vocalist Ricky Warwick, and they've been touring as Thin Lizzy for quite a while. And the guy was a good fitting replacement for the band. Well, when they went into the studio to cut some new tracks, he decided, this isn't Thin Lizzy. I'm not in Thin Lizzy. We are not Thin Lizzy. So they became Black Star Riders, starting a new chapter. And they put Thin Lizzy to bed. So Black Star Riders is touring. They play the Thin Lizzy tracks, the classic songs, and they sound great because it's pretty much Thin Lizzy with a new vocalist. But I think they did the right and honorable thing and transitioned and became a new band. Damn the guarantees, and they put out successfully 2 records now. Now back to Motley. I got a story with Motley came a couple of years ago on the Saints of Los Angeles tour with Kiss, with Diet Kiss, I call it now, because it's 50% less Kiss. I had a good friend of mine that a coworker, who had never. He's a diehard Kiss fan. He's regardless of the lineup, he loves Kiss. He's never seen Motley, and prior to the show, I was explaining to him that you're going to get Vince singing half the lyrics, and the crowd singing the rest. And I explained to him. I said, well, Motley's a kick-ass band live to see. And sure enough, he says, wow, it's exactly like you told me. I think Vince is realizing that he can't be out there singing those notes like he was. And I think maybe that kind of led to this as well. Charlie?
Yeah, you kind of cut out, my phone cut out, I don't think you cut out the last little bit there. What was that last little bit you said?
I said, well, when I took my coworker to see Motley Crue, I had told him that you're going to get he's the one they call, all right. He's going to sing parts of the song.
Well, you can tell it. Yeah, and that's the thing. And like I touched on with David Lee Roth earlier, Vince, no one will ever, decades from now, reach back, into the 80s and go, David Vince Neil was like one of the greatest singers of the era. He wasn't. And he's fashioned himself after David Lee Roth with the theatrics,
sure,
the blonde hair, and the dance around stage, and all that stuff. I mean, he's a great frontman. He's a great frontman. When he was younger, he did have a unique, different voice. But it's one of those things, man. And Vince is, and I got to give it to David Lee Roth because David's in his late 50s, I believe, and he's still in really good shape physically. I know what the dude does. I've listened to him. I listen to him on all different kinds of podcasts, and I listen to what he does. I mean, he's still into judo and the karate and all these martial arts and stuff like that. The dude keeps himself in shape. Vince, on the other hand, not so much. He's put on some weight. It's pretty obvious. He sure likes to drink, and I mean, he likes to do the rock. He just likes to do the rock and roll, fucking, whatever. I'm sure he could be in a lot worse shape. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't take care of himself at all, but so that's another thing, man. You lose a step, and it is what it is, man. And I let's see. Going back to, Red, White, and Crue Tour, 2005, I saw it then, it's like, okay, he's doing all right, but, he's doing all right. For me, Crue music has always been, that Mick Mars fucking guitar, and that, it's always been that music. I mean, this was always a nice addition, but it's always been that music, So I mean, you could literally put a fucking pair of, and it just sucks to say because I love Motley Crue, the original 4, period. So brought me into this rock and roll world. But you can put a parrot up on stage, and I mean, as long as I hear those fucking riffs and that bass and those fucking drums from Tommy Lee, I'm cool. I'm cool. I mean, I don't even have to really hear anybody fucking sing. I'll sing. I don't care. But just
that's what most of us do. That's why Vince only has to sing half the songs.
We got him covered. You go to a Crue concert, hey Vince, we got you, dude. You just get some chicks up there with you or something. Yeah. So, I mean, what to expect. And over the last few years, the last 10 years that I've been going to Crue concerts, it's easier every time because, like, the first couple of times it kind of hurt because you're like, oh, damn it, you're like, come on, Vince. But the last few I've been to, I accept it. I'm like, no, I know he's not gonna sing. Like, I used to get like really fucking defensive about it and be like, shut up, dude. Don't talk about Motley Crue like that. Don't talk about Vince. But you get older and wiser, and you're like, yeah, no, I know he's not that great. Shit. But, hopefully they do stick to this plan. And, I mean, what they're doing right now, I mean, we've already been on tour for like a year now. So, I mean, and this final tour might take 4 years, but maybe they will in it. But I mean, you know what? People will still come to a Crue concert, I mean, they're still selling out. So, I mean, if they're not going to make music anymore and their hearts aren't into it anymore, like they were, 10, 15 years ago, then I think that's when it's time for a band to hang it up. Not even if they're still selling out fucking stadiums or whatever. I mean, even if they're still doing that, if they're not happy up on stage doing it together anymore, it's definitely time for them to hang it up, in my opinion. And I know all four of them aren't into it anymore. Not the Crue thing. I know they all still enjoy playing music, but I don't think they're going to do Motley Crue anymore together.
Agreed.
So I got a message from Randy. He says he can't get on because he's locked out of his house. Hey, can anybody hear me? Huh? Hey. Hello? Hello? I'm on now. I'm sitting in the park here, in the driveway in my car.
Yeah. Do you want me to feel sorry for you or what?
No. We were at this banquet. I totally forgot we had this banquet booked, and there would be speakers and all this kind of stuff, and they kept repeating themselves over and over. Now, I know we're running long, but I'm like, of all the fucking nights to run long, really? And then they said, okay, well, I think that's it. We just have a couple of forms to fill out. I stood up and walked out the door, and I ran home as fast as I could, and Christy locked the front door, and I'm like, shit. Okay, well, I'll do the back door. Nikki is a whiz at opening up doors, so she locked the front door. So I went to the back door. That door is fucking locked, and I have no house key at all. So I'm sitting out in the driveway right now. So what's going on now? No, we're just talking about bands hanging it up. We're touching on Motley Crue. Did you hear all that? Right, I heard the Motley Crue. Yeah. Who all do we got on? Well, it's the three regulars and our good buddy Dean.
All right. Oh, there may be a couple other guys on there. Chris or Brett, are you guys out there?
No, this is Crow. I'm here.
Hey, what's that?
Going on, Randy?
Oh, not a whole lot. Just waiting for my wife to come home and let me in the house.
And again, you get no sympathy from me, bro. I'm actually laughing at your ass sitting in the car.
I was just like, I was hauling ass, rolling through stop signs, doing 50 all the way here, and I get here, and there's absolutely nothing I can fucking do. So, I guess I'm awesome. There you go.
So we've been talking about Crue, we've been talking about Motley, going out with a bang, making a big deal about signing contracts and stuff. One of the things that wasn't discussed is they just said they're not going to tour anymore. That doesn't mean they're not going to make new records or make music together. However, like Charlie said, there's some loopholes in there. They're probably, I can see them maybe periodically doing a one-off show, maybe in Vegas, because they did say we're not going to tour anymore. And that wouldn't be a tour, if all of a sudden, and they've been known for that, because back in the day, they play, and I speak from past experience with this, they can play, we're going to play the whiskey, they'll go and they'll obliterate the whiskey, and then they disappear for a bit, and they weren't really doing anything but for all intents and purposes, they were telling everybody that we're out on tour. This is the early days of Motley, and they go disappear at somebody's place out of the way. And then they schedule a show at like Troubadour and come back and say the triumphant return of the Crue, And they come and they kill it at the Troubadour, and then they disappear again. They're masters of marketing. Nikki Sixx is a genius on that stuff. So I'm sure that they're not done because there's still cash in it. And as for the true form of Crue back in the day, what we got when they were so hungry and what, I think that's gone. They've transcended beyond that. And in my personal opinion, it's good call going out. Let's just go out and leave it at that. But that's just what I think.
All right. Yeah.
They can always come back as the band formerly known as Motley.
True. I didn't even think about the we won't tour, but we'll put out albums. I didn't even think about that.
Didn't Ozzy Osbourne say years ago that's what he was going to do?
Yeah.
All of a sudden he came out with Ozfest and, in the early 90s.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
And then,
I personally, I don't want to see. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm always, always digging new music and all that stuff. But I personally don't. If you're not going to follow it up with a tour, then don't give me new music, because that new music is always in my hands, and I always want to hear that live.
Right.
But don't put it past them. I mean, they've already done a Vegas residency. I mean, who knows, dude? That kind of stuff will happen. I really hope they stick to what they said, though, of not touring.
Yeah.
They went through the big thing to sign the contract and to make a point to all the other bands that have, they didn't really talk shit, but they made it a point, all these other bands to say they're gonna, quit, and they, keep coming back out with, none of the original members. You got the stepbrother, or the stepson of the uncle who was
the guy that kind of looked like the other guy.
Exactly, man. So they made a huge point. They made a huge point about not touring again. So please stick to it. That's what I'm talking about, man. So they should be the easy one to talk about. They should just hang it up. Final tour. That's it. Goodbye, Motley Crue.
But
what about a Motley cruise?
See, they could do that. That could happen as well, because that wouldn't be a tour. But
right.
But moving on.
And I know one last thing for me to say on that. I know it's weird for me to say too, because everybody knows how much I love the Crue. But I don't want the Crue anymore, and I know it's a fucking weird thing for anyone to say, but I want to miss the Crue.
Careful what you wish for. Some of that music that's out now is crap.
True.
That's the hard thing. The thing I have the hardest thing with is that I feel I grew up in the era of the best music. The whole 80s, from late 70s to, the early 90s, I thought was the greatest era of music. And all those musicians and stuff, they're all aging and getting to the point to where they're not that great anymore. And it sucks, because now I'm going to have to find something different.
And, to toot our own horn, that's what Bleach Bangs here for. We're here to find those new bands and bring them to you.
Yeah, because because the late 70s, the era that you're talking about, the 70s, late 70s, and all through the 80s, we were blessed with great radio airplay of bands, all these great bands, and MTV. Hey kids, MTV used to play fucking music videos, that used to be a thing. They don't do that anymore. Commercial radio, unfortunately, is still playing those bands that they were playing in the 80s and the late 70s. That's all that's being played. The new stuff that's out there, we gotta play it. Shows like us and guys like you guys, the diehards, we gotta dig for that shit. Which, in a way, it's kind of nice. We have to earn it.
That's right.
Just hand it to us, possibly.
And I'll say it's corporate radio.
I would go to Rocklahoma every year. The side stages at Rocklahoma have some of the coolest new bands.
Yeah, totally agree.
And that's funny. Charlie and I have gone to festivals.
Sam's stage at the Rocklahoma always has killer, just good old rock bands, young kids, trying to bring that whole kind of style and feel back.
Absolutely.
Charlie and I, we've gone to a couple of festivals here in New Mexico, and I think I can speak for Charlie as well. Is that we dig the side bands on the side stages a lot more than the.
It's always the side stages, man. You know, I mean, like, when we started doing this Bleach Bangs things 5 years ago, I was like, man, fucking, the big stages and all that stuff. You know what? That's cool, but dude, the side stages fucking rule. I mean, I don't care what festival you're at. I don't care what festival you're at, and I'm saying that again. I don't care if you're Mayhem, fucking the Uproar, fucking Rocklahoma, Rockfest, all these other things. I don't fucking care. Those side stages, even if there's only one side stage, that's where you want to be.
Yep, that's true.
Hands down. Hands down. Hands down. Every time I've been at Rocklahoma, I've spent the majority of my time, if not in a campground fucking getting drunk off my ass, I've been in the side stage. I'm in front of a main stage for, I don't know, 10-15% of the entire time that I'm there.
That's right.
And the rest of it is side stage. So all these amazing bands that are fucking struggling right now because fucking no one's fucking pushing these bands, man. No one with money. I mean, we push them. Shows like us, iHeart's like us.
They want it. You could tell how bad they want it and how raw and passionate they are. You go to the main stage and it's kind of just rehearsed and all that kind of stuff, and they don't really give a shit, but you go to the side stage and that is where it's at.
Damn it, Randy, is that a train I hear at your house?
What's that?
Is that a train I hear at your house, Randy?
That's the train outside and my wife just pulled up.
Yeah, we just got to remind everybody, Randy is from Oklahoma. Just saying.
Did you say something about a train and your wife? What?
No. and we just descended into the depths of gravity. So, getting back on track. Did we put Motley to bed? Are we done with Motley? Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm in now.
All right, so
I'm in now.
Can we? Are we in agreement that we can put the Motley issue to bed and move on?
Yes, they should. Let's all.
They should bring back John Robbie.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. That's a whole other discussion.
Actually, that's CD. All right.
So, next band we were going to discuss.
Right.
Hello?
I'm sorry, man. Like, everybody said something at once, and then I heard silence.
So, moving on to the next band we were going to discuss, it was AC/DC, correct?
AC/DC was, yes. AC/DC was. I think my stance on that was they're done. Everything just man, just no more, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've always loved AC/DC, and I know they can. I know they can, fucking pack places, and I know, but I think it's really just time for them, especially with the health issues that have been going on in the band, and I mean, Brian Johnson, I got to give him credit, man, especially that style of singing. I got to give him credit, man. I mean, to do it this long, to sing into your 50s or 60s at any rate, any style is something to say, but that gritty, fucking screechy scream that he's got can't be. I mean, that I got to give him credit, but. That being said, just go back to what I said, before. What happens when we all get older, man? We lose a step, and vocally, I think he's definitely lost a step. And I think this is one band that it's time. It really is, man. It really, really, really is. That's just what I try to stand on.
What did you think of that, their latest album, Rock or Bust?
it was alright, you know. I mean, it didn't give me a thrill,
right?
You know, like I used to get, you know. From I was kind of like, I've kind of heard this before, just better. If that makes sense. Like I've heard this AC/DC before. I mean, this is AC/DC, obviously. I've just heard this before, and I've heard them do it better. It's kind of the same old, but not as good.
Right. It's the same album rehashed. There's nothing,
like one song all the way through.
Yeah, there's nothing new in the, you know, AC/DC has fallen into the rut of putting out the same record over and over and over. And
right.
I'm pretty biased on AC/DC myself. I think that they were done when Bob Scott passed away. You know, I think the last great album AC/DC made was Back in Black. And Charlie and I have talked about this a little bit as well. You know, I think that album I could put on and go front to back and over and over. I think after that, they kind of lost that dangerous edge and went a little more pop, in my opinion. And they had their good songs throughout their years, you know, one or two hits here. But I think that for me, AC/DC stopped when Bon Scott died, and they did it.
Is being recorded.
They did a fitting tribute with Back in Black. And that's my opinion of the whole thing.
Yeah. And then I'll jump off of that, and then I'll let someone else talk, and so I don't cut you, so I don't jump over everybody else, because everybody else has an opinion on this too. Because what James said right there, and then I went back on and I said, you know, because that's where we disagree. Because I think Razor's Edge was a pretty solid album. Even Highway to Hell. I mean, for those about to rock, I really like those. James, you know, kind of. The last one he really enjoyed was Back in Black, which, I mean, everybody knows that's like an all-time fucking classic. A whole nother show that we're going to do, by the way. Fucking greatest albums ever. But that's where we disagree, because I thought they had two more, for sure, solid albums after that. I enjoyed those next two. But then it kind of, for me, then it was like, you're not trying anymore. You're doing what works. You know, you're following a recipe that has worked, and it's still working. You're not getting out of that box. You know, it works. It's been working for them, so it's cool. So anyway, I'll let somebody else jump in on that too.
I agree. Sometimes getting out of the box isn't the best thing to do.
Sometimes.
There's you know, some groups and stuff that have gone outside of the box. I am probably one of the biggest George Lynch fans around, and this guy has tried everything possible outside of the box, but he comes back to that 80s styles rock, and that's what works for him with whatever project he's working on. I mean, he took his Lynch Mob into rap, which was a horrible mistake. You know, I mean, sometimes staying within that box isn't an altogether bad thing.
Same with Sebastian Bach.
Oh, wait, don't even get me going on Skid Row. Oh, my God, they had the perfect opportunity to bring Baz back in the band.
Another discussion. Let's hold that. Let's keep that anchor, because I wrote something about that, but let's stay track on what we're talking about. That'll be another show about replacing vocals.
Yeah, well, make sure that let me know when that show is, because I'm a big Skid Row fan, and I was so psyched when I heard that Salinger was leaving, even though he was a great singer. Sorry. Anyways, let's go back to what we were talking about. No, I was going to derail us. So.
No, totally, because, we'll get back on that at another point in time. Absolutely. Next person in line. I don't know who's next. Randy or somebody?
On the AC/DC, buddy?
Yeah, we're still discussing AC/DC.
Yeah, okay, Crow here. AC/DC, hey, what's going on, Charlie? AC/DC, I mean, I haven't gotten any of their albums recently, but, you know, when I see, like, their live performances, Brian Johnson, he's really good. The thing that bothers me is Angus Young, he's still putting the schoolboy outfit on, dancing around, and he looks like a zombie. And that bothers me.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're still trying to be 30 years ago, and the look works for Brian Johnson, but Angus, I don't know.
That's just it. Let's stop the train at the top of the ride, and that's what they ought to do. Is let's just like Motley Crue. I know we're already off the Motley Crue thing, but stop at the top, man. Make the Charlies of the world go, man, I miss them. Man, it was so great. Remember Motley Crue? And that made people want more, and just don't give it to them.
I would take a Motley Crue at half its best over a Theory of a Dead Man at their best.
Oh, amen.
So if you stop them at the top, because they were way better than some bands that are out now will ever be. Maybe three-quarters or a half of what they were might still be better than what some of the options we have.
Right. And if you stop them at the top, you're going to get, instead of getting, oh shit, man, these guys, they went out sucking, you're going to leave them, man, they went out on top. You're going to have that last great hurrah instead of the, oh man, that really sucked.
Yep. And by top, well, that was Generation Swine, right?
And again, you know what? This will be another discussion that I really want to have is bands when they replace singers, and we'll get into that discussion then.
That'll be a 5-part show.
So
right.
There's hardly any.
So we can put to bed Motley Crue, and we can put to bed AC/DC.
AC/DC.
At least here with us, this group that's right here, right now, talking about this. I mean, we can put these guys to bed. We can put Motley Crue. We can put I think AC/DC. I think they're probably done anyway. I mean, I hope that they're thinking about maybe this last little bit is their final run. It can't be anything, man. So anyway, so I think we're all in agreement on that.
True.
Maybe.
So one last thing is that I read somewhere before the one final thing for me for AC/DC. I read somewhere that Brian Johnson. Somebody asked him, are you going to be able to sing the Bon Scott songs? And he says, I'm not Bon Scott. I'm not going to try to be Bon Scott. I'm Brian Johnson, and I'm going to do my best Brian Johnson that I can do. And I admired that.
Absolutely.
And I'm done.
Absolutely. Well, I guess then we can move on to the one we kind of already talked about a little bit to open the show a little bit. And so we Randy, you weren't on with us at the beginning of this, but this whole thing stemmed from we were talking about all this whole thing that happened with Van Halen a couple of weeks ago on the Jimmy Kimmel show, and everybody bashing and all the haters and all that stuff. My take on it was, the dude's been ripping it up for 40 fucking plus years. Him and Van Halen, they're literally an international band. They're not just favored here in, a couple of places in Europe or whatever. And have been, since, pretty much almost the inception. They've been just fucking tearing it up. And it's fucking Van Halen, man. Everybody, you go to China, you go to Indonesia, you go fucking Brazil, you go anywhere, and you Van Halen, and I guarantee you 3 people shake their head and go, yeah, Van Halen, fucking whatever the accent is. But I hate when people just go on the attack and fucking Eddie still got it, he can still play. But man, David Lee Roth, he needs to hang it up. He sucks. When I read, people saying, "Oh, he sucks," and just going straight hate, I'm like, fucking really? I'm like, first of all, I guarantee the motherfucker can sing better than you. He can sing better than me. He can sing better than most of the world. But David Lee Roth was never, he was never glorified for his vocal prowess. He was a great front man. He's not. And he's even said it a million times. I've heard interviews with him say, I'm not the best, vocalist in the world. No, I'm not the greatest singer, but I do what I can, and I do what I do, and I do it the best that I can. But, this is just people just knocking him for, but it's like I said, and I've already said it 3 times, I think, in this show, and so hopefully this will be the last time. What happens when we get older? We lose a step. We're talking about singers, and we're talking about, 2 singers in this fucking conversation, that we've had tonight, not being great singers, not having the best vocals, and the tightest, and not always being able to sing all the words, and it is what it is, man. But it's easier for the guitar player, as long as arthritis and everything's working in the hands, and the hands were never damaged, to play into a 70 and still play amazingly. I'll give it to Eddie Van Halen all across the world. He sounded great. He does sound great. But, David Lee Roth, I still think he's a great frontman, and he's better than, it's what we said a minute ago. Somebody said something about the theory of dead man. He's still better now as a frontman than a lot of the fucking bands that are being pushed by mainstream media right now. Hands down. So that was my take on it. That's what's got this whole fucking ball spinning, Andy, and this is where we're at right now, and that's how we're on this. We're doing this whole fucking Uber conference right now. Bleach Bangs, Bleach Bangs Radio. I just said Beach Bangs. Who are you, Beach Balls Radio? What is that? I don't know.
That's really funny. Not to get back on the theory of the dead man thing, but first time I saw them in Oklahoma, I looked over at Christy and I said, well, this will be the last time they're back.
But they keep getting back.
And I know, right? I was like, what is going on? I was just like, oh my God. I never expected such a shitty show out of Theory of the Dead Man, and somebody somebody that was at the top of their game at that point. And sure enough, boy, I just looked over. It was like 2 or 3 songs in, and I was like, this will be the last time they come back. I guarantee it.
It just goes to show what kind of shit goes on in the when they're making these albums. It's like, or CDs, I'm dating myself. It's like they can cover up so much shit when they're, in doing these with production and stuff, and then they go out to do a live and just drop a turd. We still wanted Theory of the Dead Man to put on a great show, and we're sitting there, Sue and I were like, same thing. It's like, are you kidding me? What is it they're doing up here, And then we thought, well, maybe because we've seen them. They were on Motley Crue's Crue Fest tour or whatever. They were on, so we've seen them a few times. Every single time they dropped a turd.
Yeah. Every time, dude. I think I've seen them, unfortunately, 3 times now because of the Crue Fest thing too. But I'm just like, who's funding this? Who's paying for this to happen? That's what I say. I'm like, honestly, who fucking, okay, and then it makes me mad because I'm like, well, it's like what you said, you can put somebody in the studio and make it sound fucking fantastic, and it makes me mad because I'm like, hey, somebody fucking pay me and put me in the studio, make me sound fucking amazing, and let me sell fucking, millions or thousands, or you don't sell millions of records anymore, I think you sell thousands, whatever. Let me sell thousands of records and fucking, profit off of that and pad my fucking pocketbook. And then I'll go fucking play, some fucking festival or whatever, and half the crowd will fucking hate me, and the other crowd won't even listen to me, but I still got paid. It makes me, I'm like, I want to go do that now. Because these guys can do it. Fuck.
Mm-hmm.
So, damn it. It's a whole fucking other show we're talking about.
No other show. Getting back to that, the Van Halen issue, they have morphed. We've seen Van Halen. We've seen Van Hagar. We saw Extreme Van Halen. Now we see Van Halen Mach 3 plus Dave.
Did anybody actually see that?
Actually, I didn't see them with Gary, but I really think that's a great record. Very, very, very underrated. People stopped and give it a listen. It's a little bit of a departure for Van Halen. But, we decided we're going to be discussing Van Halen Mach 3 plus Dave. And, I told Charlie that, I feel that Wolfgang has no place in that band. And I'll say that to anybody.
Agreed.
Michael Anthony was really, if you know any history of Van Halen, he was not their first bassist. He was brought on later, but in my opinion, he was the heartbeat, the soul of Van Halen. He had that great backing vocal, great stage presence, great holding down the bass, great, and Eddie could write his own ticket, no matter what he did. And I just think that combination in the heyday was fantastic. And I think that throughout the years, they're not hungry anymore. They've all lived to the success that they have, and what reason are they really doing this now? Who else besides Van Halen could shut down Hollywood Boulevard for a day? They still can do that, but they've almost become. Well, Dave has become a parody of himself, and the guy busted his nose, put a Band-Aid across his nose, still played, and I don't know, I'm so done. I was embarrassed watching and listening to that. I really, really was. I was like, oh my God, and I'm a huge Van Halen fan. To this day, I'll remain that. And I would support them in any way, shape, or form. If they come anywhere near us, I'm going to go check them out. But I think that take heed and let's go out. Let's go out, man. Make a big party and blow it out.
Well, we're going to the Van Halen show. Their first show is here, over here in Seattle area, the White River Amphitheater. They're July 5th or 6th or something like that.
Wow.
But I'm not expecting much. We're going to go for a good show, just because we got a group here that we call the 253RC that we get together and go to a lot of shows, and it's more about, the group of us just going to enjoy music and have a good time.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. What Van Halen should really do is, and we all know this would never happen, is bring Sammy and Dave and just do a final tour. Call it a day. Bring back Michael Anthony. You got all the main players, and go out. That would sell out everywhere.
Yep.
And then just put it to rest.
Go out guns blazing.
Well, David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar went out on tour together.
Yeah.
Okay. That didn't last very long.
But did you have you guys paid attention to what Sammy's been doing though? Sammy called him out, and he realized, well, shit, maybe I shouldn't have called him out. I saw a little video blurb of him the other day that said he's got his new band, Jason Bonham, drums, Michael Anthony on bass, the guy he had with the Roberitas on guitar, and he says, if you want to hear Van Halen sung right, come see the Circle, I believe they're called. And Sammy still got his voice, and the guy he's got playing the licks on the guitars, can do a pretty good Eddie. So you get that whole Sammy Hagar era, you still got that with Sammy's new band. But he's calling him out, and, I think it would have been a better thing for him to do than, all right, you guys are still trying to get it, good for you guys. But
yeah,
we all know there was bad blood there.
Yeah,
so.
and we all know there is, definitely, and the way from just all the stories you hear and everything like that, and the way everything was kind of put down, and the way Sammy was out and Dave was back in, and then they didn't Michael Anthony hey, you can't go play with Sammy. What do you mean? On my off time I can't go play with Sammy Hagar? Is it my buddy? No, if you want to go play with him, then you're out of him. That whole thing was just crazy. But it's just a crazy. It was obviously a lot of bad blood there, and I don't know, man. I mean, I never got the chance to see Van Halen with Ross, so I mean, if I had the opportunity, I'd probably go see that, But I think what you said a minute ago was, you guys are going, but you're not expecting much, and that's the best way to go into anything. I think even nowadays, as you get older, you kind of realize that sometimes your expectations are a little too high. And then, you go see your favorite band and they weren't as great as you imagined them in your mind, or you meet one of your idols and he's a dick or whatever, But yeah, man, I think you just always got to kind of go into everything like with lowered expectations. I mean, that sounds kind of pessimistic, but shit, you know. Now, this is the part where I was talking to James, and this whole. I mean, I don't think any of us can sit here and solve, you know, like, okay, and we're not the committee or the council to decide, you know, what band, hey, it's time for you guys to hang it up, and they have to listen to us. But we all have our opinions, but, and I think that's what matters, and that's the cool thing about it. We all have kind of the same opinion, but we all disagree on certain aspects of this whole thing. Now, here, let me pose this to you guys, because I posed this to James in our original conversation. I'm Eddie Van Halen, or I'm David Lee Roth, or I'm Vince Neil, or I'm Brian Johnson. This is what I've been doing for the majority of my life. This is what I love to do. This is my craft. Music is in my blood. It's in my bones. It is me. I am music. That's how I've earned my living. That's how I've paid my bills. That's how I paid all my ex-wives and my child support and everything I have in my life. I owe to the band I'm in and the music I play. It's what I have. How do I hang that up, man? How hard? I mean, you put yourself in that situation. How hard would that be to stop doing something you love? You know what I mean? So that's the other side of this argument. Like, fuck, you know. I mean, if I don't want to see him anymore, then maybe I just don't go see him anymore. You know, if they want to keep playing, they keep playing, but I'm not going to go. That's my thing. Like, how do you just quit something that you loved your entire life and that has been part of your life for most of your life? How do you stop doing that? That's got to be painful. That's got to suck. That's got to leave a hole in your soul, man.
Yeah, it's got to, but I think some people actually, not this guy, enjoy the job that they do now, and at some point you got to retire. You've worked that. I've been at this job for going on 17 or 18 years. I can't even remember anymore. What am I going to do when it's finally, you know, time to retire or move on or do something like that? Is it going to suck? Yeah. Am I going to stop working? I doubt it. Am I going to stop doing that? Yes. I'm sure they're still going to be playing music, still going to be doing what they love. But sooner or later, they've got to realize that they are not at the top of the game anymore, and it's time to step back and let some other folks in, man.
There's plenty of stuff to do in the music business besides perform, you know, especially for someone that's established themselves.
Absolutely.
You know, so they can continue on with the music industry, you know, just not perform. I mean, some of the performers these days are definitely doing themselves a disservice getting out there and, you know, just stinking it up.
Right.
That's very true.
Hey, I want to throw something out real quick, too. Here's, since we're talking Van Halen, and we had discussed Kiss earlier, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. At one point in time, there was a Kiss-Van Halen connection. Most people know that David Lee Roth he produced, I think, some of the first demos of Van Halen, and wanted to call the band before they were Van Halen, Daddy Longlegs. Now, Gene and Paul had ulterior motives when they discovered Van Halen during the recordings of Love Gun. And there actually exists a demo recording of the entire Love Gun album with Eddie on guitar and Alex on drums, that they recorded it. And unfortunately, Van Halen decided they're going to go ahead and move their own way, so they did not join Kiss. And they actually went back in and recorded with Peter and Ace. And both parties have acknowledged that these demos exist, but they have also stated that they will never see the light of day. How cool would that to be here, Love Gun, with Eddie and Alex on guitar and drums? That's like the whole...
As long as it's produced correctly. That's
the holy grail of the demo. That's the holy grail that's out there. I think they mentioned it in one of their Kiss Story releases, but you know, I've been trying to find that holy grail myself, but it's not going to happen. That could be another show. What could have been, should have been, you know. Anyway, I thought that was kind of funny since we talked about Kiss and Van Halen.
That is crazy. Pretty interesting.
That's pretty cool.
Cool. All right on. Well,
I knew this would take up an hour.
I just don't know. I mean, and it could literally go on, and I mean, that's why I didn't want to do a 30-minute show, because there's no way we're going to get all this into a fucking 30-minute show. But
so we are at an hour right now.
What are we?
So then I can say hi to you guys.
Hey, Tammy.
Hi.
Was that Tammy?
That's Tammy.
Yeah.
Tammy, you got a pretty smile. You got a pretty mouth.
Thanks. I've been sitting here listening and had it on mute because I've had dogs running around and kids running around.
It wouldn't be a Bleach Bangs show if there weren't dogs barking in the background.
Dogs, demon babies.
And now a train.
The train.
And the train.
Devil babies laughing, crying. Anyway, so where do we go from here? You know, we've discussed bands ending. You know, Charlie brought up some good points. What else do they know? You know, I think
why don't they just get out there and help some of these younger bands, help produce, help get them out there, get them in studios, get them out there, and then every once in a while do a reunion show, like every 5 years or so, do a reunion show, give the people what they need, what they want. Don't put on the same show that they've been putting on for 10 years, but help get some other bands out there and shed some new blood out there.
See, that is crazy. I am hell yes. I'm so glad you spoke up, man. That is like the best fucking opinion we've had all night.
Yeah, that's great.
That's what they should do.
But I think that, you know, I believe that, you know, it was stated earlier that the 70s, 80s, early 90s was the greatest period of music. And I think part of the reason that was bands were still in it for the love of making music, for their art, for their craft. And then once the corporations came in and decided they could make a lot of money off of it, people stopped writing from the heart, started writing from the wallet, started to write that number one song.
So
you know,
commercialized.
Sure.
It's not anymore.
And, you know, once they stopped that, you know, we started getting more and more jingles put in for lack of anything else to say, you know, how can I sell this song? And that part of the problem there is, you know, bands when they realized, even the bands we're talking about, when they realized that they could become financially stable with that, they lost that hunger, they lost that edge that got them to where they were in the first place. And again, they just become rehashing of what worked before.
Yeah. It's kind of a good point. I mean, and this is going to be kind of a weird analogy, but it's, you know, can we still get that ballsy, hungry music from a band that's not hungry anymore, you know, or angry anymore because they're financially stable and all the things, all the problems they were writing about before and all that thing built up anxiety and anger and all that shit, the depression and all that stuff. It's not really in their life anymore because they have a better life now. I mean,
right.
You know, just like with comedians, you take guys like Belushi and Chris Farley, you know, these guys, I mean, you know, they were drinking and you know, cocaine like crazy, and they were fucking hilarious. John Candy, all these guys, you know, they were abusing themselves, but that's how, I mean, everybody has to admit that's some of the best comedy in.
Absolutely.
They were booze and cocaine fueled fucking fireballs. You know, so I mean, it's a weird analogy, I know, but then, you know, unfortunately all three of those guys, you know, are no longer with us, but, you know, you clean up your act and you get a little bit better and you get a little bit of money in your pocket, and then, like, there are bands out there that they can still write fucking just as hard and edgy and hungry music as they did when they were really hungry. I think some people, I think it's just human nature. Sometimes people just get lazy about it and just, you know, I'll put out a good effort here. You know, it'll be good enough. but I'm,
Well, and it's easier for them to get to the shows. I mean, like these guys are flying across countries and everything, and it's no big deal. And like you guys were talking earlier about how good the side stages are. I mean, those guys bust their asses to get to those shows. I mean, they're borrowing money from people. They're staying the night in people's basements, sharing couches, and they want it. And they sound so much better, and their shows aren't the same every single time.
That's it.
Exactly.
If I could relate with what Tammy just said, let me one more thing. I just had that. I just encountered that. I had a really good friend of mine. I'm going to leave names out. A really good friend of mine that was in a successful band that had a tour bus. They had recognition. They were endorsed, and he was playing bass with these guys. Had a bass endorsement. Couldn't get them out of Hollywood. They were Hollywood rock stars, and they wanted to be seen in places. And he was like, guys, let's do something. They have an album 2 years in the can, not out yet because they're still too busy being rock stars. Well, this guy left that life and joined up with a band that's touring now in a passenger van, just up in a trailer, not knowing how they're going to get from town to town, and buying 2-for-1 hamburgers, eating that. They literally, when they opened up their trailer, when I was there, sleeping bags and tents came rolling out. That's where they were staying. He did that because he says, that to me is rock and roll. I want to live my life meeting different people. If I have to sacrifice to get out and play the music I want to play, I'm going to do it. I'm dirty. I'm unwashed. We don't know where we're going to sleep tonight. We don't know if we got enough gas money to get to the next town. We're going to share a hamburger tonight. And I think to me, that's the pure essence of rock and roll music, is living that life. And I got to kudos it.
Well, perfect example. Yeah, absolutely.
Conference locked. Conference unlocked.
What? Did everybody else hear that?
Yeah,
Conference unlocked.
Hey, how come it doesn't matter if we're on Block Talk or if we're on Uber Conference, we have a British lady, leading.
Right?
So, anyway, just a quick example of what Tammy was talking about, these bands that fucking are crammed into fucking vans with their equipment and all that stuff. A band that we all know and we all love, and they've all moved on, but Sunset Riot, man, that first year that they played Rocklahoma, I happened to meet them at the front of the fucking, the gate there. They'd driven all night. They were up for 48 hours. They played a couple of places in Missouri. The last place they played was St. Louis. They drove all night to get there. No sleep for 2 days. They get there at 1 in the afternoon. They got to go on stage at 3. They're the first band playing at Rocklahoma. Not the first band playing that day or whatever. The very first band that will strike chords on their guitars and fucking sing a song and play songs. The very first band that opened up Rocklahoma that year. So they drive, 48 hours, dude. No fucking sleep. None of them had any fucking sleep. They get there. They want, they kind of want to, so we drive 40 minutes to my sister's house so they can fucking, drop some shit off so they can clear some of it out of the van. Kind of half-ass bathe. They didn't really shower. They just kind of sponge bath themselves. And then haul ass back with no time to spare. I'm freaking out. There was a whole other nightmare on that aspect of it. But that's the thing. They're cramming. They're getting there as fast as they can. They're moving on to the next show, and nobody's flying them. Nobody's taking their equipment for them. They're setting up. They're tearing down, and they get there, and with literally 15, 20 minutes to just a fucking setup, and then fucking bam, the fucking people start flooding in, and they're playing. And that was a testament. Dude, they killed it. They owned that fucking shit. But that's a testament, and I know how tired they were. A lot of people didn't. I just happened to be with them at that moment in time, and I was like, holy shit. I know you guys, living on the road is not glamorous, but that was a moment in time for me going, okay, I got I already had a level of respect that was, just untoppable, but I didn't think it could be. But at that moment in time, I was like, that's my level of respect has gone through the roof now. And you wouldn't know it. Everybody in that crowd, I had no idea how tired these guys were. You would have thought they just got off of 16 hours of sleep, in a freaking on a Tempur-Pedic. But it's not just Sunset. It wasn't just Sunset Right. It's all these bands that we know. It's all those bands on the second stages, man, on those side stages. They're all doing the same thing. They're all doing it. So yeah, man. So I think what Tammy said is perfect, and I'm gonna start making phone calls to all these bands like Motley Crue and fucking AC/DC and Van Halen. I'm gonna start making calls and sending out emails and telling them, look, I'm gonna give you 5 bands. I want you guys to fucking make these bands fucking famous, and then you 5 bands, you do this, and you fucking pump this band up, and you put the money behind these bands and make them the next whatever. Nothing.
They've got all the resources. They've all got their own studios. Why not?
If Nikki Sixx has done some of that, he really does.
Yeah, he does.
He's got a lot of irons in the fire. He's got his own things too, but he does kind of put some not as well known bands. But I want him to dig down deep here where we're at, man. And these bands that, if they're lucky, they make it. They make $40 to get to the next town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what they need to do. That's the next step in this whole fucking thing. Those bands hang it up, and they put these bands up there on their shoulders. That's what.
Well, and they still get to do what they love. They still get to help make music. They still get to make people happy, and they still get to stay in the industry.
Well, you have these these well-known guys, and I see them all the time. Where's that next band that fucking that's going to kick everybody's ass? And well, they're right here. I just told you the name of the band. There was a contest. Well, I remember the Dirty Penny contest. That was a long time ago. There was another one after that, and I can't remember who was. It was like, give me. I think it was Nikki Sixx or some. I don't remember. They're like, yeah, give me, the next band, blah blah blah. And I'm like, fucking throwing out names. I'm like, Crash Carlos, these guys. Blah, blah, blah. These are the next ones. All they need is a little help. That's it.
I think that they should have a show where everybody comes on and presents a song or two from 2 local bands from wherever they're from. So that's pretty cool. We'll have a show just where, your guests say, hey, here's a band that's local here that's tearing it up. What do you guys think? And play a track.
That'd be great.
And then that'd be really cool. Get someone likes it, then they look it up on the internet, which is where everybody gets their music these days, and start a little grassroots, instead of file sharing, band sharing.
Sure. That's a good idea. That's the way to do it. Well, I think we've talked this one. I think it was a good episode. What do you guys think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, not bad. Have you guys had any problems with Uber Conference? I mean, does this work?
Works. I can hear everybody just as well as I could on the other format.
So Randy, let me ask you this: did the whole show record, or what's the?
I was able to hit record about 10 minutes after I got in the house.
Okay, good.
I was able to hit record.
Okay, so
it does record.
Great, because I recorded the whole thing from the beginning. I have software to record the whole thing from the beginning, so I just was curious. So, what our next step is, well, obviously we're going to edit all this out. Next step is to create an MP3 of this and spread it around.
Right on.
So, since I'm currently waiting to go back to work, I think I can do that tomorrow.
Nice.
So I'll get that up.
That's kind of what I was thinking about using this platform and being able to, when we actually mix it in the end, being able to put the music of the band and the theme music at the beginning. That's the bad thing about this is we can't push play and say, hey, this is our guest so-and-so, here's their new song, click, But
but the good thing about this is it's not live, so nobody can hear us right now except us, which is cool. which is cool because
Right.
then I think we can edit and we can have some music later, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Cool. That's all that matters. So,
well, I like this format.
I want to thank everybody. Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, Crow, you said?
Yes, sir.
Hey, thank you, man. Thank you for hanging out, dude.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Right on, dude. Well, cool, man. Well, I think we should probably just wrap it up with the nice little fucking hug and, do we do it?
Take us home, Charlie.
Well, okay, so I just want to make sure before I go too far, and you can edit me out on this one. So I just want to make sure I know everybody that was on tonight. I think I do. I know it was me, Randy, James, Tammy, Dean.
Yep, I'm here. Otherwise, then just Pro blows.
Pro blows. So I know. But who else, though?
A buddy of mine, Brett, was on for a bit, but he was having a hard time. I guess either his phone wasn't working or he was speaking up, but we couldn't hear him.
It's a little tricky with this when we have this many people on. I mean, sometimes me and Randy and James just talk all over each other, so but it's a little tricky. But I want to make sure I'm thanking everybody. So thank you, Brett, too. Just everybody, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. And I hope that this is what we've been working on, guys. This is we've been laying in hibernation. We've been dormant for a while. We've been building. We've been trying to work on something that's going to be better for us so we can be better for you guys out there that actually want to listen to us and care what we think and listen to the bands that we want you to listen to because they're fucking rad. But yeah, man, so big thanks to everybody. Tammy, thank you so much. I can't say it enough. Your idea is probably the best idea I've heard in a long time, and I'm going to make phone calls. What did you think again? But
yeah, Tammy.
The restraining order do it. Yeah, the restraining order is going to, I think it was only like a 3-year restraining order, so we can get back on that shit. But I'm going to go ahead and say it right here, right now. Bleach Bangs Radio, we're fucking back. We're back, motherfuckers, and this shit's better. You better get ready, because we're going to be back real soon. New format, new way to do this. Going to keep bringing you the best bands that you should be listening to out there. So thank you very much. Keep rocking, motherfucker. And you know it. We'll bang your head with friends. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Later.